I was watching one of those videos this week, and I saw the most relatable thing that I think I've ever seen. There was a man working in a cubicle, and he was trying to get his work done, and he had taped a piece of paper on his back, and it said, "Please do not disturb." It said, "I have zero control, and if you talk to me, I will talk to you. I am behind schedule, and I need to get my work done. Please do not stop or distract me. I am easily distracted." And I thought to myself, at first I thought, that's the most relatable thing. I'm a talker. I don't know if you guys know this. If I start talking, then I'll just keep talking. And I thought, man, that's what it looks like to be on mission. See, that guy had a goal, and he said, I have to get my work done. And as much as I love doing these other things, as much as there's these other things that come up, I need to get my work done. So I'm going to put this sign, I'm going to put the headphones on, and I'm just going to do my work. And I don't know how well it worked out for him, because I feel like there's a lot of people that would distract him just because he put a sign on that said, "Do not distract me." But I thought, that's what it looks like to be really focused on something. And you see, as I was thinking about that this week, I realized when people lock in, or people focus, or people are on their mission, we say you're hyper focused. That's all that matters to you. And as we've been journeying on this journey of really experiencing covenant love and looking at our marriages and God's design for marriage and how we've moved this and how the world changes this, but how we need to be looking at this. And last week we talked about communication. Hopefully that went well for everybody. I will be honest, I got a talking to after service, so that was fun. That's right, it's all part of the communication process. This week I want to look at marriage on mission. Because oftentimes we find ourselves floating through our marriages and not focused on the mission that God has put in our marriage. And I want to be clear this morning when we start, the mission of our marriage is not to be happy. I hope that it brings happiness. I really do, and it should bring happiness. But that's not the goal. That's not the ultimate outcome of our marriage, is to have two happy people, maybe some happy kids. That could be one of the goals, but it's not the goal of our marriage. See, our marriages should reflect the way that Christ loves his church, the way that Christ interacts with us. And when people see marriages on mission, it should draw people to God. So this morning, as we get started, do we think that our marriages are drawing people to God? Do we think that people look at the way that we interact with our spouse and they say, man, that's how Jesus loves? Listen, we don't have to be perfect. But I want to set the base for where we got to work from. Because I'm going to be honest, when I talk to my wife, sometimes it doesn't seem a lot like Jesus. Unless Jesus was a man of very few words. See, sometimes I talk for the purpose of communicating what needs to be communicated, and that is it. Dinner plans. Here's what dinner plans are. Boom. End of conversation. And oftentimes my wife will look at me and say, "Oh, are we done now?" And I said, I thought this was the listening portion, not the talking portion. And oftentimes it doesn't look as graceful as it should. Oftentimes, even though it's not angry, it's not malicious, it's not full of love and grace that we need to see. When we live our marriages out on mission, we need to remember a couple of things, a couple of key details that we need to realize. Sorry, my voice is still a little out there. The first thing that we need to realize is that two are better than one. God made this in the beginning. He showed that this was going to be a thing. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says this in chapter 4. It says, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, and has not another to lift him up. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? We're not designed to do things individually. We're not designed to live individually, and we're not designed to live in our marriages individually. See, man wasn't made to be alone, neither was woman. But sometimes when we look at our marriages, it seems like it's two strangers working together. Sometimes we say, well, we have the same goal, but we're ships in the night. You guys hear that phrase before? Sometimes it feels like when there's so much work and so many things going on between the careers and the babies and the life and the family and all of these things, it feels like we're just passing through. But when we're individuals playing a group game and on a team, then it doesn't work so well. God knew it. God knew it from the beginning when he gave Adam Eve. He gave Adam this huge task of naming everything, of controlling the world and structuring it and all these things. And the first thing that he noticed is, hey, Adam needs a friend. Adam needs somebody with him. It's more than a friend, right? Adam needs a partner to come alongside him so that when he stumbles, he doesn't stumble alone. Marriage is set up this way. You know, this morning I caught the highlights of the USA hockey game. I don't know if anybody's hockey fans. It's not really an Arizona thing, but we do have some teams. I'm just saying. But I caught the highlights of the game, and it looked promising. I don't know how it ended. Don't tell me. Had to get ready for church, guys. Priorities. But I caught the beginning of the game, and as I was watching the beginning of the game, it looked promising. We were winning. Do you guys know? I looked it up. We haven't won Olympic hockey since 1980. They made a movie about it because it's a rare thing for us. And I thought to myself, how do we not win at hockey? Listen, I know it's not our greatest sport, but we have professionals. We have a professional hockey league. We have these people that dedicate their lives to playing hockey. And I thought about it, and I thought back to that movie that they made, Miracle, or the original Miracle on Ice. And there's a point where the coach is talking. He says, you're all professionals. You're all the best at what you do. We pull all these professional people and we put them on the national team and we say, hey, go make us look good for the Olympics. He said, you're all the best at what you do individually. See, we take a lot of these really great athletes, all these really great people that are the best at what they do, and then we put them on a team and they're worried about themselves. They say, hey, how do I look good in this? How do I score? How do I make my career better? Because they're not used to playing together. They're not used to working together as a team and making the team work. And the best quote of the whole movie: the name on the front matters a lot more than the name on the back. See, the coach knew that to win at hockey, which is the same at winning at life, you have to be more worried and more concerned about the name of the team than the name on the back of your jersey. Oftentimes in our marriages, we don't think in these terms, but we become more concerned about ourselves than about our spouse and our team winning together. And it doesn't look like a negative thing, right? We don't tell ourselves, well, I'm just going to leave my spouse out, right? Nobody gets married and says, hey, I hope my spouse doesn't talk to me today. Nobody gets married and says, hey, I hope my spouse doesn't look at me today. I hope that they can do their own thing, and that would just be a fantastic day. I mean, maybe after a while of being married, sometimes we think that way, but only for the day. But what happens is we tell ourselves, well, hey, I can handle that. Hey, I'm going to do that. And sometimes, if we remember, we fill our spouse in afterwards. See, what happens is we say, hey, I want to be helpful to our team, and so I'm just going to do this. And then the other person says, hey, what happened? I said, oh, I just did it. But we didn't do it. We didn't talk about it. Say, well, I thought I was helping. And when two people pursue the same goal but not on the same team, you don't always get to the same place. That marriage doesn't look as unified as it's supposed to look. In Ecclesiastes, the very next verse, verse 12, chapter 4. It's not on the screen, but it says this. And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. A threefold cord is not easily broken. Well, if you've got you and your spouse, that's two, God becomes the third chord in that marriage. You want a marriage that lasts, that's built on covenant love, then God needs to be the third chord. And not just hypothetically. See, a lot of us we're really good at bringing God into our marriage when we get married. It's part of the traditional marriage vows. It's part of the traditional marriage experience. And whatever your marriage looked like, typically there's some aspect of that. Right? Some people say the Lord being my witness. Some people say, however you put it, some people do communion together. Some people do the whole, we got married on the beach, so we did the whole sand together and two lives coming together and talking and praying. But however it looks, that's one day. Listen, a lot of people invite God to the wedding. A lot of people invite people to the wedding. But that's not the same as being a threefold chord. That's not the same as inviting God into our lives. See, if we want to be the best team, if we want our marriage to be the best marriage on mission, then we need to really invite God to be rooted in our marriage. Not just once in a while, not just once in a blue moon, not just once a week, but really rooted together. Because that's how we stay strong. The second thing that we'll start to realize is that we need a marriage on mission has a shared spiritual life. That is to say that when we invite God into our marriage, we need to cultivate that spiritual life together. Listen, I'm not saying that you have to do every Bible reading together, every prayer together. It's good to separate and pray and talk to God and have those moments, but we need to be coming together too. We need to be talking about the things that we read, and we need to be praying together. And I know that sometimes it's difficult. I know that oftentimes in my marriage I do most of the praying. I don't know if it's because I'm a pastor or what, but my wife looks at me and goes, you lead. I say, all right, fine. And sometimes I know that it gets a little frustrating. We say, well, if I'm going to pray all the time, why don't I just pray by myself? But that's not what God is looking for. Even when it's difficult, even when it's short prayers, even when life is busy, it's about sharing a unified life together spiritually. Joshua chapter 24, in verse 15, one of the most popular verses in the Bible. It says, and if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, then choose this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods of your fathers, whether the gods your father served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. They say a house divided cannot stand. Joshua knew this. On a large scale, Joshua is giving an address as he's retiring from public life. He's led the Hebrew people, and they've gone astray multiple times. It's the whole story of the Old Testament. If you get a chance, read it. It's very relatable. But multiple times they've gone away from God, and God has pulled them back. And at this point, Joshua is so frustrated, and he's getting ready to step down. And he knows as a country, they won't stand if they serve other gods. If there's intermittent relationships, if there's false gods, if there's all these other things, then the country won't stand on its own. But he also knows that a house, a home, that is not in spiritual unity will not stand on its own. There will always be conflict and always be struggle. You might have some good days, you might have good seasons, but ultimately there's going to be struggles. And back at this time, it's not just a couple. You know, in our culture, you buy a home, you get married, you get a home, and it's your family that you start. But back in Joshua's day, it's multiple generations living together. Like a family compound, we would call it now. And Joshua knows that even with multiple generations, if you don't all worship the same God, there's going to be issues. That when you want to make a spiritual decision and you say, hey, I talked to God and I think this is fantastic, this is what God is telling us to do, and the other person doesn't believe in God, then they're going to say, that's really not smart. We're not going to do that. because they focused on logic instead. Or they say, well, my God didn't tell me. And there's this disconnect in our family. That's not what God is looking for. If God is the third cord in our marriage, if we're intertwined together, then we both have to be focused on God together in our marriage, not just individually. My Uncle Mikey is probably my favorite family member. He's hilarious. He's always in for a good time. He's always silly. He's always laughing. He's jovial. He's all these things. But I only see my Uncle Mikey when somebody dies or when somebody gets married. See, my family's very spread out. And as I was at a family funeral a couple years back, we were sitting and we were talking and we were catching up, and we spent all this time laughing and catching up, and it was just a fantastic moment of connection. And I'll never forget, as he was getting up, he said, well, I'll see you at the next funeral. Which is kind of morbid and kind of his sense of humor, but also something that's true. See, my family doesn't get together all the time. We only get together when major life events happen. And actually, it would have been my wedding that he would have come to next, but COVID interrupted all of that. So now I got to wait for somebody else to get married. We hope for the positive side of things. So now we're waiting for somebody to get married so that I can hang out with my uncle. Because that's how time works for us. Guys, a lot of people invite God to the wedding. A lot of people invite God to the funeral. But you can't build a relationship on those moments. You can't build a relationship on 10 or 20 or 30 moments in life. It's not enough. See, if we want to have a shared spiritual life together, then we need to invite God into our homes daily so that he knows what we're going through. Spoilers, God already knows. But we need to be telling him. We need to be in the trenches daily praying together with God. We need to be working towards coming together. Because praying once a week, once a month, once every other month, once a year, once in a blue moon, whatever it looks like, isn't enough. You know, when we started this series, I said, what would it look like if you talked to your spouse once a week? What would it look like if you talked to your spouse once a month? I tell you, you probably won't be married long. Right? Relationships are built on communication, and they're built on time together. The same is true of our relationship with God. And it's not just the relationship that we build with God. It's deeply important to be rooted in Christ solo. But it's the relationship that we build together with Christ as well. When I was younger, I had a group of friends that I would hang out with all the time. There was 4 of us. It was the perfect little group for different things. You fit well in movies. You fit all in one car. Like, it worked out well. We hung out together all the time. But I learned really quickly, if somebody got sick and missed a couple of days, you were extremely left out. Because just by the nature of hanging out all the time, so much passes, right? Little inside jokes, silly things, whatever happened at school, all these kind of things. And I would notice that when people would get sick, one of the 4, and they would come back, they would look around really confused. Partly because as a friend group, we just didn't remind people or like think through it that way. But partly because so much had gone on that they missed. And it got me thinking that if we have a really great relationship with God, and that's great, but we leave out our spouse, man, they're feeling really confused. Because then when we do come together with our spouse and with the Lord, we say, oh, you remember the thing that we've been praying about? They're like, I wasn't part of it. I didn't know we were praying for that. Because there's a difference between an individual relationship and a three-strand cord relationship dedicated in our covenant marriage. Does that make sense? That we need to be sharing, even if it's difficult, even if it's a struggle, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day. It's about being on the same page and growing together. Because if we give 3 minutes a day to prayer with God and our spouse, that 3 minutes will turn to 5. It'll turn to 6, to 7, to 15, to whatever we can spare together, because it becomes something that's rooted in our life, deep down. The third thing that we need to remember and we need to realize when we have a marriage on mission is that our home is a mission field. See, Matthew chapter 28 has a famous verse called the Great Commission. And it says this in 19 and 20. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. It's the last thing that Jesus said to his disciples, the command that he gave. And for whatever reason, oftentimes for us, we look at the Great Commission and we say, well, we're going far. We're going to go help somebody less fortunate than ourselves. And listen, that is important. And that's a large part of that. But mission work starts at home. See, our marriages are designed to reflect God. They're designed to reflect the way that God interacts with his church, the way that God interacts with us. And when we don't look at home as a mission field, then it becomes a battlefield sometimes. Because it's a lot easier to go and spend a week and say, I helped somebody this week. I went and I built a house, or I fed the hungry, or whatever the case may be. I did something great. And that's a lot easier most of the time than saying, hey, I have this problem at the heart of my marriage that I have to work on. That's a lot easier than saying, hey, I know that I've been struggling with communicating, but I don't know where to start. I don't know where to say, hey, how do I do better at this? Or you say, hey, I know that it's a lot easier to make an impact that's visible in a week than it is to say, hey, we need to fix this together. It's a lot easier to make a donation than it is to say, hey, I don't like the way that we talk to one another. I don't like the way that we nitpick with one another. Because oftentimes what we're scared of is the backlash. And we don't like to say it, but the truth is oftentimes, even in our marriages, especially in our marriages, we're scared of rocking the boat. We think to ourselves, well, I can't say that because then he's going to get upset. Or we say to ourselves, well, I can't say that because if I do, then she's going to respond a certain way. Jesus never worried about rocking the boat. Jesus never intentionally caused drama, but if you read through the Gospels in the New Testament, Jesus never once held back because he was afraid of rocking the boat. Because what mattered most was the mission that Jesus had. What mattered most to Jesus was seeing people come to a realization and a love and a connection with the Father and being forgiven so that they can have that moment, that life together. And in our marriages, as we start to realize that home is a mission field, we need to realize what matters most in accomplishing that mission. You know, it's interesting. When I was younger, I went on a missions trip. Went on a few, but I was on one missions trip, and this teenager, he was part of the group, and I didn't really know him well, but he had come down with us, and we were working together. And he looked at me one day, and he said, you know, you're actually a really nice guy. I said, hey, thanks. And I felt all happy for a second. And then I thought to myself, wait, did you not think I was a nice guy? What happened here? And I realized from the outside, I was a hard guy to get to know. I had a little people group, my 4 people, and we were really tight, and it was hard to get into that people group. Not because we were specifically limiting, but when you have great friends and you pick up time together, then it's hard to just jump in there. And I didn't think about it, but we were also, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I'm going to say this. We were also all boys, right? We liked UFC. We liked football. We were constantly wrestling, ending up with bruises. You would think that we hated each other because we would beat each other up and get really excited about it. I don't know if you guys have been there as kids, no? We were really excited about it. And we'd come back and we'd have bruises and all these things. And like, oh, he got me really good on this one. And thinking about it, man, that's terrifying. That doesn't seem very friendly. And this man, this boy, had made all of these assumptions about me because of the way that I spent my time and the way that I had this friend group around me and the way that we interacted together. And I thought to myself at first, well, that's not fair. He didn't get to know me. But then I thought, whether it's fair or not, that's how the world operates. See, what he saw, he made assumptions about and started, and yes, in all reality, he should have talked to me. And when he did talk to me, we became good friends. He wasn't part of the four. He didn't like getting punched. But, he was part of the friend group. But the world makes assumptions about us all the time. When we go out with our spouse and the world sees how we interact, they're going to make assumptions about our marriage. They're going to make assumptions about the way that we interact, the way that we care about our spouse, the way that we do all of these things. And listen, right or wrong, that's how the world is going to move. And the question is, are they going to see Jesus in those assumptions? Or do we go out and we're tired and we're not really feeling it, but we said yes because we love our spouse, and so we're out to dinner and we don't want to be out to dinner and we're mopey? Because that doesn't look like Jesus. Jesus lost his best friend and cousin, and he wanted a moment to mope. See, John the Baptist was killed because of preaching, because of the things that he did, and Jesus was so distraught that he wanted a moment to weep. He wanted a moment, a human moment, to grieve his cousin. And you know what Jesus did instead of mope? He healed more people. Jesus poured into his ministry. The people wouldn't leave him alone, so instead of being upset about it, instead of yelling at him, he said, I'm going to help you through my pain. That's what Jesus does. Jesus doesn't say, well, it's Friday night and I'd rather be laying down because I've had to work 20 hours than out to dinner right now. Right? Jesus doesn't say, well, I'm going to yell at my kids because they're being rowdy. Jesus gives grace. Our marriages, we should be giving grace. They should reflect that relationship. Now listen, you got to discipline your kids. You got to discipline your kids. It's totally true. I understand. Within reason. Basically. We all have long days. We all have hard days. But it's worth noting that when people look at our marriages, what do they see? As we strive to bring our marriages on mission, to focus on the mission that God has, to draw other people to him, to help them understand his love and his grace and the way that he forgives. I want to close with this thought as I invite the worship team to come up. Every business in the world has a mission statement. Walmart's mission statement is to save people money so that they can live a better life. Now, listen, I don't know if they do that or not, but that's their mission. Target's mission statement is to help all families discover the joy of everyday life. Costco's mission statement is to continually provide members with quality goods and services for the lowest prices around. If we're going to live our marriages out on mission, I have a challenge this week. What is your mission statement in your marriage? Everybody who has a mission statement. And if we're going to live on a mission that was given to us by God and an example given to us by God, then how are we going to define that mission statement? And listen, some of you are sitting there right now and you're thinking to yourself, well, we could write it this way. Talk to your spouse about it. That's literally the whole point, right? Talk to your spouse together. But this week, think about what a mission statement would look like. Define it for your family. Make it specific.